of
Mind Your Cleaning Business.
Hey, your host, Brian Leighton, president and founder of PHC Cleaners, with my man.
DeMeo from Sunshine Cleaning Systems.
Awesome. Sometimes I gotta let Ray talk, so I always push it over. So Ray, how was your week?
It's been very good.
Yeah?
Very good. How about yours?
Not bad.
Good.
Anything new with business?
No, few inquiries, but nothing crazy.
Nothing
yet.
crazy?
No, nothing abnormal.
Yeah. Still working hard on marketing?
Yes, sir.
All
yes,
right.
sir. How about you?
Yeah. Still plugging away at marketing. I think we have 5 proposals open right now that we're looking to close
very
out.
nice.
Yeah. Some
Very
commercial
nice.
clients, so it's good stuff. We have a fun episode with you guys all today.
We do.
We're going to talk about, again, as usual, kind of bounce all over the place.
Right.
But we got some good topics that I think will be valuable to our listeners and our watchers. So let's start first. And you brought up this topic.
I did.
The idea of not taking on every job.
Yes, sir.
What the hell does that mean?
There's just been, some stuff that has happened over time, that jobs you shouldn't take on to protect your business and your reputation, as well as your customer. You and I were talking offline, and you want to give an example of a job that you recently encountered?
Yeah. So we faced. I know Ray's faced these types of jobs before. We'll get estimates. That we'll go and do a free consultation and take a look, and the job just isn't necessarily for us, for whatever reason. For us, this particular job, there's a lot of damage that had happened to a floor, and the floor actually had to be repaired before we were going to do any sort of cleaning to it or anything like that. So that's a job that we're like, we're not going to be able to take this on until that floor is repaired, right? And again, that's a learning lesson. I'm sure you've taken on jobs where you're like, shit, should I have taken that job on?
It's basically pre-existing conditions. You need to let the customer know, for one reason or another, I should or I shouldn't take this on.
Yeah.
Because the last thing you want to do is that to become your responsibility.
Right.
I mean, we have insurance to protect ourselves, but you don't want to have to replace someone else's floor because of what was encountered.
That's a good point. Bringing up the insurance thing, obviously that's a piece to it. Shoot, they could throw the damages on me, right?
Yes,
or you could add additional damages to the floor. But also, when something's damaged, so we're going to use this floor as an example, VCT floor, cracked, pieces missing, etc. You run a side-by-side machine over that. It's going to pull it up or whatever. Even if, and in some cases, you can't even clean specific areas because it's damaged, right?
Correct.
Which would lead likely to complaints from a
Yes.
client. Well,
Yes.
why didn't you clean this, or why didn't you do that? And so it's probably not worth the headache at the end of the day.
But even so, if you were to strip this floor, that stripping solution could get under one of those tiles.
Exactly right.
That has already cracked in pieces missing, or even where the concrete, I think some of the pictures showed that it was lower than the surface of the floor.
Yeah.
That could just lift up during the course of the stripping procedures.
Exactly right. It deteriorates the glue
what?
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, you don't have a spare tile to put in that place.
Right.
So how are you going to put that piece back down and then put floor finish?
Right.
You can't.
You can't.
No.
Exactly right. And so how in your business, because I know you and I have talked about this a bunch of times, we've certainly had clients that we said, sorry, this job isn't for us, or we can't service you, or maybe recommend something, or whatever the case may be. How do you handle it in your business? Because I know you've obviously had clients that are like, well, I can't service this. So what does that look like? How do you handle that? What do you say?
I just tell them, in my professional opinion, we can't move forward here because of these conditions. And I like to ask, how old is the item that I'm going to be cleaning? When was it installed? What's been happening over the maintenance time? Or what's been happening over the time for maintenance?
Yeah.
So I can get a better gauge of how long maybe this could have been going on.
Right. All right.
And then certainly if a floor is installed directly on a concrete slab, you're going to have a lot of issues. And depending on the age that slab was poured, it may or may not have something called a vapor barrier or vapor retarder.
Right.
That is placed underneath the concrete before it's poured. And if you will, think of, here in New England anyway, you drive by someone's house and they have an ice skating rink that they built with some 2x4s and a tarp.
Right.
So the water freezes and does not allow that to penetrate back into the dirt.
Correct.
With a concrete slab, it's the opposite, where it won't allow the water from the ground to come up into the slab because of that layer of plastic. Right. Even in times when we had a lot of rain, the hydrostatic pressure in an older slab will cause moisture to come through those cracks. And no matter what floor surface you have, even if it's carpet, that's eventually going to get up there if the pressure builds up enough.
Right.
So if you have a concrete slab that has a vapor barrier retarder, there's less of a chance of moisture getting through and causing that floor to fail. But on the other side, maintenance and floor strippers specifically, the chemistry, if that is allowed to get underneath that tile, because as we just said, pre-existing conditions, that's going to loosen up further,
Right.
and cause that tile to debond,
Right.
and now that's going to come
Create a mess. Right.
Exactly.
Right. So you covered a lot of information there, and I think
I
this is, but it's vastly important in educating your clients.
for sure.
Right. You're a professional in what you do.
Thank you.
Not
For
everybody
sure.
is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Your
Yeah.
clients aren't. Your clients certainly aren't. I mean,
No.
they're hiring you to be a professional and servicing the floor. And as professionals, we have to be able to tell our clients, hey, listen, unfortunately, we can't help you out in this situation. But if you notice how Ray, you gave insight to how and why. It wasn't just like, screw you guys, we're not taking care of you.
Right.
But this is based on the situation, we can't take care of you.
Right.
And then in some cases, maybe you can provide an opportunity to say, listen, I'm not a professional in application of a VCT floor, or I don't install carpets, but I would advise this and,
Right.
and try to get it
Right.
fixed. Obviously, you don't want to give them professional advice on something that you know nothing about, or you don't always have certificates, but you could say, this is what I would recommend to try to fix this. Maybe consult a professional that can do that.
Yes.
And then maybe they appreciate that, and then later down the road, they say, hey, now you want to come back and take care of my floor, right?
But it's also vital to know before you have one of these floors installed, because most manufacturers today require, it actually says it in their warranty guidelines, that must have a vapor barrier or retarder under that slab. If it does not, the end user, whoever is having that floor installed, is playing a little bit of a game and taking whatever risks could come down the road.
Right. But
And
most
the
users,
worst thing is you don't want to spend all this money to put in a new floor.
Right.
Something happened because the tests were not done. There's actually 3 types of tests that can be done, and these are ASTM. If you haven't heard of ASTM, that stands for American Society of Testing and Materials. And the 3 different tests given by number are the F1869, F2170, and F2659. 2 of them are really non-invasive. One can actually be done immediately before the floor is installed. It's a non-invasive, non-destructive test that will not damage the concrete surface in any way, shape, or form. The other 2 are a little bit more and go a little bit deeper, but there's a lot of controversy as to if these statistics and data numbers are legit.
right,
But you still have to follow what the manufacturer specifies.
right, excellent. And I think that's important because how many you buy a home or you buy a commercial building. How many people know those tests that you just said?
They're not
No,
going to know.
no, they're not going to know, right?
And the thing is, it's actually up to the end user or property owner or the general contractor to pay for these tests, not the company who's installing the floor.
Got it. Yeah, makes sense. So you learn something new every day.
You do, yeah.
So obviously with Ray, having a ton of knowledge in this industry, he's able to give his clients, even the ones he can't necessarily service per se, but give them a little bit of feedback on, the proper approach to get things fixed before he takes them on.
Right.
Which leads us into the next one, because you brought this up as well, and I think we'll go back and forth a little bit on this one, is don't bite off more than you can chew in business.
Yes.
Let's dive into that. Like, what do you mean by that?
Well, for me, being a one-man show, I can only handle certain sizes of jobs, especially if there's deadlines or a limited time frame to be able to do the work. Once in a while I might need the assistance of someone, but I do try to avoid that for this just reason, because I don't want to embarrass myself or look like a klutz in front of the customer.
Yeah, makes sense.
Whereas you're a little bit different. You have the necessary staff, you can pull them all together in one building and
Right.
usually get the job done.
Right, and I think that's what you'll find in this industry is you're gonna have businesses like Ray where it's a one-man show, or maybe they have one other employee, or you have businesses like PHC where we've got multiple employees in multiple states, and And certainly, again, when I started PHC, it was one person, right? But
Right.
my focus point as the business owner was trying to build up the business and hire employees. I didn't start it to do all the work myself. I wanted to grow. Not saying either one is right or wrong. The reason why our perceptions differ a little bit is because our business models are different.
Agreed.
Right? You're
Yeah.
a one-man shop. You know, you're right. There's only so much time in a day, and there's only certain jobs that you're probably willing to take that add value.
Yes.
But also, you can't again take on too much because you're like, shit. Well, I don't have enough time to do this by myself. With me, on the other hand, with PHC, we have multiple employees, and when we built the business, we took on big jobs
Right.
that I wasn't necessarily sure if I could handle. So. And if you're in business and you say, you know, you have two different models here, so you pick the model that, you know, best fits you. But if you're in business and you say, I want to build a business, I want to have employees, there's a threshold eventually that you got to step over and say, I'm stepping into this and taking a chance. You know, that's just the reality of it. Certainly, you want to be knowledgeable and do your research and do your homework before going into the job site and start. You know, you want to have processes and procedures in place, which we talked in our last episodes.
Right.
And figuring out, okay. But for me, it was like, all right, take that risk. And I'll just kind of lay it out for our viewers, our listeners, is this. If that's the direction you want to go, and you're looking at it as like, I want to build a business with multiple employees, I would say, and you're at a point where a client comes to you and it's a big job, and you're like, shoot, I don't know if I can handle it. Provide yourself a little bit of time. So say this, say, yep, we're more than happy to take care of this for you, but you know, it's going to be X amount of time. So if it was cleaning, I would say, you know, our schedule's booked out for, you know, this time and this time, but we can book you after this date, you know, but we'll be able to get it. And now you use that time, you allocate that time to figure out, okay, do we have enough staff? If we don't, how do we get staff?
Right.
You start putting processes and procedures together. All right, it's a big commercial post-construction job, you know, multiple floors, multiple days, etc. What are the step-by-step processes, right? So now when it's go time, show time. You get there, boom, here's your checklist, here's your process and procedures, here's your staff, and go.
And even the equipment.
And even the equipment, exactly. Do you have the
when you think of the wide area vacuum that you have versus a backpack versus an upright, what's going to lead to more productivity?
Exactly right.
I mean, if you're needing to do individual offices, an upright vacuum is going to be better.
Correct.
But if you're doing wide open hallways, you want that wide vacuum.
That's funny. So we live in an apartment right now because our house was flooded. Ray obviously knows this. Our house got flooded, so we're living in a really nice apartment complex. Anyways, the cleaning people, I always laugh. You know, they're nice. I always say hi, talk to them. The big long hallways, obviously, we have here. They're using a backpack vacuum. And I was just like, man, there's so much. You could save so much time and energy. You know, at PHC, we've got these big, as where it was. You know, they come in different sizes.
26 inches?
Yeah, 26 inch wide, right? So this, you push like a lawnmower, and you just, you know, it's one swoop, you get the whole hallway.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
And more importantly, it's got the beater brush on it.
More effective than
far more
just
effective.
suction.
Yeah, exactly. So, just little things like that. Anyways, I know we went off topic.
Yeah.
But if you want to start, if you want to go Ray's direction, and just listen, I don't want to have the headaches of dealing with employees. I don't want to have the headaches of all this management stuff. I just want to be me. I specialize in it. I'm going to do it. Maybe Ray, how would you, or what do you do to make sure? Because I don't want to talk. This is your model. To make sure that you're taking on the clients that add the most value to you. Like how do you know? How do you pick and choose?
It's trial and error.
Okay.
You have to ask the customer the questions over the phone to understand their needs, get a better sense of is this something I can take on or handle or not. Maybe you do go and visit the site, but I really don't do that anymore. I've become knowledgeable enough to ask the right questions over the phone to be able to decipher, hey, is this something I can or cannot take on?
Excellent. Sorry for that banging, something in the office, banging upstairs.
Yeah.
So that's a good point. So, and then do you, because I know when you first started, we talked about this when I first started, it was like take on as many jobs as you could. You know what I mean?
You took on every job.
You're just, and Ray would always come at me.
You did not leave one on the table.
Ray would be like, dude, why did you take, you know, but that was my point. I was trying to build up the things. But back to you, your trials and tribulations, and you learn from it.
Yeah.
We can't take on PHC's at a level now, we can't take on all those little tiny jobs anymore and those
Right.
little small jobs anymore.
Right.
And I think for you as a one-man show, like you find the balance between, well, it's not worth my time to take on a, this little tiny job that's going to cost me,
Right,
my cost
right.
is higher, but also I can't take on these big commercial buildings by myself.
Correct.
So you're trying to find like the middleman.
Yeah. I mean, I remember getting a call from someone who asked, we have one area rug. I say that's going to be too small with the amount of time that everything takes to set up. I would suggest you bring it to a rug cleaning plant.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Done and done.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. And that's important. So whether you follow a PHC business model or we get employees, that sort of thing, or you're just going to be a one-man show and specialize and be the technician and be the business owner, etc. Know your value. Know the value of your time.
Yes.
Know the value of which of what you're going to do, and it's okay. Which leads us into our next one.
Mm-hmm.
If you go the PHC route or you go Sunshine Cleaning Systems route, we talked about failure in our last episode or a couple episodes ago, right?
We did,
and like,
yes.
Things that you've done to fail.
Yeah.
Things that PHC and myself have done. And we learn from those and we keep growing.
Oh, yes.
But I don't want to necessarily talk about the action of failing. I want to talk about the idea of failing and why that is the biggest effing crutch to all entrepreneurs starting out. Again, maybe not all, maybe 90%.
Yeah.
It's just like this thought. You're like, oh shoot, how do you get through that?
Besides a few bottles of whiskey, you just have to keep, just like every day when you're going up that staircase, it's one foot in front of the other, one step at a time.
So like, I want to use you as an example. I'll use me as an example at some point. But right now you're learning the act of working on the business, and you're really working on the marketing and the SEO stuff.
Yes, it's very challenging for
Why
me
didn't you?
because
Why didn't you do it before?
because as you just said, procrastinating about it, not realizing how important and essential it was, and not having you as a mentor. So to speak,
I don't go that far.
from that aspect, or a guide or an assistant. And
Yeah, an assistant. We'll call it.
second opinion.
Right.
I don't know.
Right. But yeah, I mean that's a good point, right? And now you're like,
And it's because I don't enjoy it as much as you do.
right.
We're sort of opposites in many respects, where I love the cleaning, I love the actual instant gratification part, knowing what products to put into that to make the result successful, whereas you feed off of the business end of things.
Yeah, right. And we're both going to a specific objective.
Yes.
Provide a high quality service.
Yes.
Make the client happy. And obviously grow our businesses. Two different pathways come to the same meet, and the reason why that was important, and I'll share it as well, is Ray's been in the business for many years, and he's very good at what he does as far as the cleaning aspect goes. Absolutely. I mean, he's one of the best people in the cleaning industry I've ever met, and his own mentors, teachers will tell him that. But now he's learning a lot. He's learning a new skill, learning a new trade, if you will. Trying to, right? But it was all those years of being kind of, and he spent thousands of dollars hiring somebody else. Again, there's nothing wrong with that. If in growing your business, if you have the capital to do so, obviously you want to hire people and that can add that value. But Ray said, well, maybe I'll try to teach myself and learn, and I've supported him along that way. But getting through that threshold of stepping over that threshold and being like, all right, let's just plunge in. Let's just like enough procrastinating. Let's get in there.
But also technology has changed in that there are now many more website templates and platforms available than when I first started.
Yeah, true too.
That's part of the reason too.
Yeah, absolutely. Or even we've been talking about this thing a long time, like making a podcast or marketing or doing video marketing, and it was always finding an excuse why we shouldn't or why we can't or why I'm too busy. And now here we are, 5 or 6 weeks in, making a bunch of different shorts and YouTube videos and Instagram content, and it's man, we could have been doing this a long time ago. You know what I mean? And so it's not necessarily the action of failing that holds you back. it's the idea of failing. And I think as a business owner, you know, if we're going to take this away, if you're a business owner, an entrepreneur, somebody that wants to get into business, own their own business, you know, whatever the case may be, just effing do. Just do. Yes, you want to give some thought process to it. Don't just go out there on a whim and say, hey, let's.
Yeah.
But just do it. There's gonna be a challenge that arises.
Like Nike, just do it.
Just do it. Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to steal that, but just do it. Just execute something.
Yeah.
Right? And then if it goes great, excellent. Now you build off that. If it doesn't go well, okay, what did I learn? And let me try it again.
I mean, think of the turtle and the rabbit. They both keep moving.
Yeah.
You can't stop.
No, you can't stop.
No.
And that's the thing is I think we get so we get so scared of failing that we don't actually end up doing anything at all.
Right. You can't learn to drive from a parked car.
Right. That's correct. Move the car.
Yeah.
And that leads us into our next topic. We're all over the place today, but that's what these podcasts are all about. Just kind of, you know, we don't get like script set up or anything. We have a couple topics and then we chat about them. But they all kind of like go together. The next topic is leadership. And when I told Ray I want to talk about leadership, he's like, "What the hell are you talking about?" Like, explain to me, you know, what you're talking about. And it goes on both ends. So Ray, one-man show, works for himself. He is the company. Brian, he's got multiple employees. Managers. There are different aspects to leadership. So tell me what leadership means when it's just you. Like how do you lead yourself?
Just get up and say, I have to do this.
Right.
Really, pretty basic, actually.
Yeah, pretty basic. Get up and I got to do this.
Because, as you've stated before, just my drive for cleaning is what. That's all I need.
Right.
It does not feel like I'm actually going to work sometimes.
Yeah.
Because I enjoy what I do
really
so thoroughly.
Yeah.
I enjoy that challenge every day. It's the same task, but it also isn't. And
it's a little bit different.
It really is.
Yeah.
No two jobs are ever going to be the same.
Right.
And it's putting all of those skills and talents that I've acquired over the years into each and every job.
Excellent. And so leadership is a piece. It's a obviously interpersonal skill set. But a piece with leadership also comes discipline, self-discipline, self-motivation.
Definitely.
Right. We talked about in the last episode, you know, screw motivation. But it is a driving force. It's not the end all be all because motivation's up and down. It's really about discipline. And like you have to answer to yourself. You have nobody else to blame except for yourself. And so you have to lead yourself. You know, you have to be the leader. On my end, and it's still, don't get me wrong, it's still like that. You know, I have to. Ray knows, like I work around the clock, right? And like working on PHC and like just like going 100 miles an hour.
I'm not sure he actually sleeps.
So it's not like, you know, I might not necessarily be on every job site anymore, but I certainly was in the beginning. But now I feel like I work harder. And I was listening to a podcast the other day about Dana White. It never gets, you know, Dana White was talking, and it never gets easier. No. The bigger your business gets.
Some things.
Some things maybe, but it never gets, your problems never go away.
No.
You get rid of one challenge, another one arises, or you put out one fire, another fire comes up, and maybe it's twice as big, right? And so my point on that was leadership, and we talked about the process and procedures and like hiring people in other episodes, and as a leader now, and obviously we have managers and general managers in our company, understanding what it's like to be kind of at that bottom of that totem pole. I was there in my own company. You know, you were there when you started out, just grinding through, and like, you know, you have to be okay with doing the nastiest jobs, scrubbing toilets, that sort of thing, and understand, okay, and then the next step for me was, all right, hiring an employee. The next step for me was, all right, building the business. The next step for me was building process and procedures and so forth, and marketing and managing, and it goes on.
Right.
But there's a level of respect when I think you've been there, done that, and you can tell your staff, hey, I know how hard you work, and I greatly appreciate it. I've actually been there physically, and they know I have. Some of the people we've had have been with me as long as we've had the business, and have seen me on the job site with them, right?
Yeah.
And so telling your staff, whatever it takes, your staff, and Gary Vaynerchuk said this, don't expect your staff to work for you. A good leader, you work for your staff, right? And that always resonated with me. And that's what I look at now when I think of leadership and how to lead people. So yeah, obviously a lot of hot topics today.
Yeah,
kind of went all over the place.
Really did.
We got some funny bloopers for you guys. That was a good time. We ran out to have a good time here.
We do.
But yeah, certainly in future podcasts, we're going to start answering questions that people bring up when it comes to entrepreneurship, maybe when it comes to their own business. Yes, we own cleaning companies. I own a consulting firm. I own a soccer company. So there's a lot of other, and Ray's happy. He's specialized in cleaning. He's a professional in the cleaning industry. But the insights that this guy can bring to the table, and the thought process that this guy can bring to the table are significant. So don't hesitate to send your questions, ideas, thoughts, and we're going to answer them here on the podcast in the next couple episodes. So is that it, Ray? You got anything else for us?
No.
No? All good?
Yeah.
Awesome. No, that's it. We got to get back to work.
We do.
Enough of this nonsense and all this fun, all this ridiculous podcast. So we'll see you guys out there. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Take care.
Cheers.